I used to believe I had it all: a stable marriage, a peaceful home, and the comfort of a family that worked. My husband was calm and loving, and though he was older than me, we shared a rhythm that made life feel safe. His son from a previous marriage, Jordan, had been a part of my life for nearly 7 years. When I married his father, Jordan was just finishing high school. Now, he was a grown man, smart, respectful, and full of ambition. We had a warm relationship, not mother and son exactly, but something close. I cared for him deeply, helped raise him, and supported his choices. Then there was Lisa, my best friend since college. We'd been through everything together: failed relationships, career changes, family crises. She was the one who stayed after everyone else walked away. She knew my secrets, my weaknesses, and my dreams. When I married my husband, Lisa stood by my side in joy. She was the kind of friend people envied: funny, trustworthy, and always present. It was Lisa who first encouraged me to date my now husband. She said I needed someone grounded, someone stable. And she was right. For years, things were good. She visited often, sometimes stayed over after our little wine nights. My husband liked her, Jordan liked her. Our home was her second home. I never thought I needed to question her presence. But over time, things started to shift, subtle changes that I couldn't explain. Jordan, who used to share everything with me, had grown distant. He was polite, always polite, but not open like before. He spent more time in his room, came home late, and seemed lost in thought. I chalked it up to growing up, maybe work stress or relationship troubles he didn't want to talk about. Still, the change was hard to ignore. Then there was Lisa. She began dropping by unannounced more frequently, always with some excuse about being in the neighborhood or just missing me. But our conversations felt different, more surface level. She looked more radiant than usual, dressed differently when she came over, laughed louder at Jordan's jokes. At first, I admired how easily they got along. But the warmth between them began to feel too familiar. I told myself I was overthinking. Lisa would never cross a line. Jordan would never disrespect me or his father. I dismissed the thoughts, buried them deep under trust and loyalty. But something inside me stayed restless. One evening, Lisa stayed after dinner while my husband went to bed early. I watched from the kitchen as she and Jordan sat in the living room, talking in low voices, their bodies angled toward each other like there was no one else in the room. I caught Lisa's hand on his arm for a moment too long. They didn't see me looking. I forced a smile, poured another glass of wine, and told myself not to create drama. But that night, as I lay in bed beside my husband, I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. Something was wrong. I just didn't know how wrong it would get. The unease in my chest wouldn't leave. I tried to convince myself it was paranoia, that I was imagining things, but my instincts screamed otherwise. It wasn't just the occasional glance or shared laugh anymore. It was the tension, the kind that lingered in the air when they were near each other, even if no words were spoken. I started paying more attention, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't help it. Lisa's visits became more predictable, like she was working around Jordan's schedule rather than mine. She'd show up just as he got home or stay late when she knew he'd be around. It stopped feeling like friendship and started feeling like something I wasn't supposed to see. One afternoon, I heard them laughing in the kitchen. It was innocent on the surface, but the sound of Jordan calling her by a pet name, one I'd never heard before, froze me. When I walked in, they went silent. Lisa brushed it off with a joke, and Jordan avoided eye contact. I began noticing little things. Lisa would sit closer to him than necessary. Her body language changed, more flirtatious, more open. Jordan, usually reserved, seemed emboldened around her. Once, I walked into the living room to find them sitting unusually close. They moved apart too quickly, pretending nothing was wrong, but the guilt in their eyes said everything. Still, I kept quiet. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. But inside, the trust one had for both of them was starting to decay. I tried confiding in my husband. He brushed it off with a chuckle, saying I was reading too much into things. They're just comfortable around each other, he said. But his dismissal made me feel even more alone. I stopped bringing it up. What was the point? If I didn't have proof, it would always be just a feeling. But that feeling was growing, louder and more relentless with each passing day. Then there was the earring, a small, silver hoop lying on the carpet near the couch. Not mine. Not something I'd seen Lisa wear recently. I asked her about it casually and she smiled, saying it must have fallen out during one of our wine nights. But there hadn't been a wine night in weeks. I didn't press her, just nodded, pretending to accept the answer. I tucked the earring into a drawer, unsure why I kept it. Maybe I needed a physical reminder that I wasn't imagining it all. From that point on, I became hyper-aware. I tracked Lisa's visits. I watched Jordan's behavior. They didn't do anything overt, but the energy between them had changed. It was unspoken, hidden in glances and half-finished sentences. And I started to notice how often Jordan smiled when she texted him. Yes, I saw her name light up his phone more than once. He would lock the screen quickly, as if guilty. It was eating away at me. My best friend. My stepson. The two people I had trusted beyond reason. I needed clarity. Not assumptions, not suspicions. Proof. I wasn't going to live with questions anymore. The day it all unraveled started like any other. I had an appointment that got canceled last minute, so I decided to come home early. I didn't call ahead, didn't text anyone. I just walked through the door, quiet, tired, and distracted. What I found when I stepped into that house stopped everything inside me. There they were, my best friend and my stepson, tangled in a moment that couldn't be mistaken for anything other than betrayal. They weren't talking. They weren't laughing. It was physical, intimate, and so unmistakably real that I couldn't pretend anymore. They didn't notice me at first. I stood there, frozen, my mind numb, my body detached. When they did see me, it was as if time paused. Lisa pulled back instantly, her face pale. Jordan's expression changed from shock to shame in a heartbeat. No one spoke. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I turned around and walked away, because I had no idea what else to do. I felt like the ground had given way under me. All the signs I had ignored, all the doubts I had silenced, came crashing into reality in that single moment. I locked myself in the bathroom and stared at my reflection, but I didn't recognize the person in the mirror. My heart was racing, but my thoughts were slow. Lisa, the friend who'd stood beside me through every major life event, had done this. Jordan, the boy I helped raise, had betrayed me in the cruelest way. There was no excuse, no misunderstanding. They had chosen this behind my back. Quietly, repeatedly. I didn't come out until the house was silent. They had both left, probably unsure what I would do or say. But I had no words. I didn't even tell my husband right away. I needed space to think, to process, to understand why this hurt as much as it did. The pain wasn't just romantic betrayal, it was emotional. It was personal. It was betrayal layered with years of trust and loyalty. I wasn't just losing a friend or a stepson. I was losing the belief that my life was built on something solid. When I finally told my husband, he sat in disbelief. He asked me if I was sure. When I confirmed, his silence said more than any words could. He was broken too, in his own way, but his pain didn't absolve mine. He confronted Jordan, but it was already too late. The damage was done. Lisa didn't return. She didn't even offer a real apology. Just a short message saying it wasn't planned, that it just happened. As if that made it any less cruel. Jordan didn't fight back. He didn't try to explain. He looked away every time we crossed paths in that house, until he eventually stopped coming back at all. The air was heavier after that. Every room felt smaller. And I found myself mourning something deeper than a relationship. I was mourning the version of my life I thought was real. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. I withdrew from everyone, not out of bitterness, but because I needed to reclaim my space. The house felt unfamiliar now, even with my husband still there. We didn't speak much about what had happened. He tried to move past it, but I couldn't. Something had cracked inside me, and no amount of forced normalcy could seal it. I realized I was grieving, not just for the betrayal, but for the illusion of safety I had lived under for so long. Lisa never reached out again. Our years of friendship dissolved with one selfish decision. I deleted every picture, every message, every trace of her from my phone. There was no point holding on to memories that now felt poisoned. What hurt most wasn't the act. It was that she, of all people, knew what this would do to me and did it anyway. I had trusted her with my life, my home, my family. She took that trust and lit it on fire. Jordan eventually moved out. My husband didn't stop him.
He said it was better that way.
I didn't disagree. I never confronted Jordan face to face after that day. I didn't need to. His silence told me everything. Maybe he felt guilty. Maybe he didn't. Either way, I stopped trying to understand him. The boy I had once seen as part of my world no longer existed in that same place. That bond had been broken beyond repair. People often talk about forgiveness as if it's something you owe others. But I learned that some things aren't meant to be forgiven. They're meant to be learned from. I didn't find closure in conversations or apologies. I found it in reclaiming my boundaries. I started over. I got therapy. I went on solo trips. I focused on building a life that wasn't shaped by betrayal, but by strength. I stopped asking why it happened. The answer wouldn't change the outcome. My marriage became quieter, more distant. We stayed together for a while, trying to patch up what was left. But I think deep down, we both knew the foundation had shifted. He didn't blame me, and I didn't blame him. But we were no longer the same people. Eventually, we separated, not with anger, but with acceptance. Sometimes, love isn't enough to heal what's been broken by others. I now live alone, and for the first time in a long time, I feel peace. Not because everything is perfect, but because I've removed the people who brought chaos into my life disguised as love. I don't miss Lisa. I don't miss Jordan. And strangely, I don't even miss who I was before it all happened. That version of me was too trusting, too willing to overlook her gut feelings. What I have now is clarity. I've learned that betrayal doesn't just reveal who others are. It shows you who you are, what you're willing to accept, and when it's time to walk away. I caught them. I lost them. And in the process, I found myself. That, in the end, was the only truth that mattered.